Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. It's your old pal, Jake. And it's good to see you guys. It's a 2 for Tuesday. That means this is the second stream today. Yes, we managed to do them both before midnight. Anti-Corporatist, good to see you. Wicked Foxy Dragon, hello. Rustbox, good to see you. My body is ready. I love it. I love it. Well, we did start this off with a poll for those that got here good and early. We got a couple of things we're going to talk about, and we're gonna there's multiple people discussing it, so why not? We're gonna go with it looks like Bo of the Fifth Column discussing D.A. Bragg's lawsuit against Jim Jordan. I'm glad you guys picked that one because, much as I love Ari, boy oh boy, the point Bo makes regarding how this can backfire is hilarious. And to that note, tea we're drinking today, it's a delicious A&W root beer. I should say that in the truly American way, root beer. What else we got? Oh, my word. The Ruskies are using old school military machines, although they're using them in a way which is it makes a lot of sense, just updating you on the war in Ukraine. And of course, Maddow, my girl, talking about the heroics of the state of Washington's Governor Jay Inslee. Highs and lows, folks. Highs and lows. Let's jump right into it. And that will include, of course, your old pal Jake recording an intro. Eventually. Oh, come on now. All right, here we go. Bo of the Fifth Column recently discussed the moves taken by District Attorney Alvin Bragg to prevent Jim Jordan and Sinister Company from interfering with an investigation. Surprise, surprise, we got more MAGA, obstruction of justice, whether it is an actual charge of obstruction of justice or if it's just a legal attempt to prevent justice from being sought in the United States. They're doing what Republicans have always done, and that is try to break the law and get away with it. Or try to just, let's call it more broadly what they always do, try to harm America and get away with it. It may, though, not be a fight that Jim Jordan actually wants to win. You consider why he's doing this, which is politics. He's got what he needed already, and he may be informed politely by somebody that works for him, or maybe he's figured this out himself. If he wins this fight, he will be setting a precedent which can be and should be used against Republicans and those that support him. Let's let our man Bo of the Fifth Column talk about it.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again.
Howdy,
So
Bo.
today we are going to talk about Trump's New York case. But we're not really going to talk much about the case. We're going to talk about the back and forth between the local and federal government that is going on. Because you have Bragg in the DA's office, and you have Jordan and Republicans up in Congress. Jordan has indicated that he would like to investigate the charging decision. Bragg is obviously not in favor of this. So, legal channels all over YouTube are going to go through the filing, line by line by line, I'm sure.
I don't know if Legal Eagle, a.k.a. the Internet's lawyer, has done this yet, but if they do, and I fail to mention it, let me know. because I love those breakdowns. But all right, let's see what Bo has to say.
Short version, there's a subpoena that Congress has put out. The local DA doesn't really want it enforced. Bragg doesn't want it enforced, and filed suit to stop that and get some other relief. What are the main arguments here? From Congress, from Jordan's standpoint, at some point during some part of the investigation, the local prosecutor used some federal money. Therefore, Congress has the power to interject themselves into the charging decision. That's generally what it is. I know somebody's going to say, well, it's about oversight. No, it certainly appears intended to affect the outcome. I would point out that even in response to the suit, Jordan said, first, they indict a president for no crime. It's designed to influence the outcome.
So real quick, I don't think we're going to have a lot of MAGA supporters checking out this video in particular. So mostly for you that do watch this video, point out that little factoid to MAGA folks if you come in contact with them in the wild. Jordan says that this subpoena's over nothing, or excuse me, that the indictment's over nothing. How does Jim Jordan know that? Isn't that the point of a trial? Why does he disagree with what the grand jury has to say? Why is his opinion superior? It's not. There's an obvious answer there. It's not. He's wrong. He's wrong. I can't imagine that the arguments Jim Jordan will make will hold up in front of any judge, including a Trump appointee. Part of the reason why, Bo will explain perfectly, and I'm just going to let him go. But remember that as a talking point for when you're talking to MAGA folks. Why does Jim Jordan know more than the people of the United States who will be asked to render their judgment? Why does he know more than a judge? Why does he know something that a prosecutor who's built an entire case apparently doesn't? And the answer will be obvious.
Now, from Bragg's position, this is not how our country's set up. It violates basic premises of federalism. The federal government can't interject into local matters like this, and there's two reasons for that. One is, again, the way the country is set up. The second is they literally can't. They can't, meaning they don't have the ability to do this. You can't micromanage the United States to this level. It's huge. And then I'm sure that Bragg is aware that the hearings are designed to influence the outcome. So Bragg is trying to stop it. Now, what's going to happen? I don't know. Those are your two arguments. Now, my understanding is that, yes, the DA's office did use federal money. Does that give Congress enough juice to actually...
Sorry, I got to jump in. I do know. There's no way. There's no way. I don't really know. I don't have a crystal ball. But I just can't see a judge, literally any judge, saying, no. Jim Jordan's within his rights here. No, don't have anything to add. It's just, it seems, in order to, even if you're a Trump judge and you don't give a fuck about the country or justice or fairness or anything like that, one thing about the American justice system is that It relies on precedent. And if you set this, you're opening up, even if you only care about doing awful right-wing things, you're undoing so much of the structure of the way our country works that it can and will be used against the very things that you want to support.
Interject to this level? I don't think so. But I don't know what a judge is going to decide. So that's what's going on, and it's probably going to get very, very messy. There's another type of law that I think is important to bring up at this point, and it's the law of unintended consequences. Let's say Jordan is successful in this, and that gets established. That's how things are going to go now. If the federal government gave money and then some portion of that money got used in some way that somebody in the federal government doesn't like, they can haul people into D.C. and stage a giant show. Have hearings about it. If somebody offered that, if I was sitting at a table and somebody was like, House Republicans, who are notorious for being incapable of putting on a good hearing, are going to investigate Bragg in the DA's office. But it opens the door for oversight of any local office that has at any point in time taken federal money. Would you take the deal? Absolutely. Absolutely. Set this up. Let's do this. Because I have a feeling that if this is pushed through and that this is how things are going to run from now on, I want you to think about all the things around you that have federal funding that have issues right now. That school up the road from you, do you think any federal funding was used in the planning, running, or construction of that school at any point in time? I bet it was. So,
to add on to that, which states get more federal funding? Red states. This would, on balance, this would be a terrible way to run the United States. But if this is how a corrupt judge chooses to side with a corrupt congressman, what they will be opening up the GOP for is a world of whooping. In addition, the people who are willing to argue a, let's call it, difficult case, and the people who are able to argue a difficult case, generally, that particular Venn diagram has only a very narrow sliver in the middle. And the percentage of that sliver, which are Republicans, is zero. My knowledge. Would have been, I don't know, Kinzinger, Cheney, back in the day. But anybody who has an ability to earn a living without making minorities of some sort a target does so outside of the Republican Party. At this point, from what I've seen.
I would imagine that school board members could be brought in to talk about books they banned or students that they are treating less than equally. If Jordan gets his way, there's going to be a lot of really upset Republican governors. I don't know how this is going to play out, but this is one of those things that will start dominoes falling. So be aware. There's a subpoena. Bragg's trying to fight the subpoena. And what happens and how this moves forward is going to determine a lot. There are some people who have asked, well, why can't the DA go after Congress, those who are trying to influence the outcome? Generally speaking, Congress is protected under something called the Speech and Debate Clause. That protects speech and debate. It really isn't established how much it protects actions. There might be other things that come of this as well on that ground. But expect this to be going on for the next few weeks and turn into a giant thing. I would suggest that by the end of it, no matter how it turns out, I don't think Republicans are going to get what they want. No matter how they feel about Bragg didn't indict Trump. The grand jury did. And that's something that has to be remembered. This, the political posturing may just draw a whole bunch of attention to something that would be detrimental to the Republican Party. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
Delightful. We'll go into what the wicked audience has to say about this in a moment. Let's just say what you can do right off the bat. Give D.A. Bragg some backup. I'll explain why in a moment, but I don't think that I don't agree necessarily that the people who did this particular political move won't get what they want. I think Jim Jordan already got what he wants. But the fact is, as long as Bragg is the only person is the only person who's making visible progress on a Trump case, Bragg will be a target. He'll be a target of fascist lawmakers, traitorous lawmakers. He'll be a target of traitorous Americans all over, including those that vote in the traitorous lawmakers. Think of it like if you've ever had one of those electricity-producing machines, and if you just touch it with your fingertip, it hurts. But if you put your whole palm on it, the electricity spreads out, and it doesn't hurt. This is the exact same scenario, but in terms of political pressure. If you are from one of the 5 outstanding fake elector states where the fake elector plot, as outlined in the January 6th committee's report, took place, contact your attorney general and tell them you want a case started at the state level. They've all put in their excuses. They've all said, well, Merrick Garland is looking into this. Bullshit, says the Master Sergeant. No, we're not tracking on that. No, sir. I've been watching that channel a lot. The point is, that is an excuse. There has been enough time passed that the people that put these attorney generals into the positions they hold have good cause to believe that Merrick Garland is either unwilling or unable to take this seriously. He has had plenty of time. I don't care how many fancy Dans get up in front of network television cameras and say, well, it's a very serious case, and so these things require time. Nonsense. Just nonsense. If the American Department of Justice is able to prosecute such a crime quickly, it should have done it now. If the American Department of Justice is really not able to put together a case where the guy does most of the crimes in front of cameras in this amount of time, then we need to fix that system. And that is a conversation to worry about after we got these crooks. Get your states involved. Link in the description, as our own. Wicked Foxy Dragon pointed out, in Nevada, you can file a complaint. Links in the description. File that complaint. Don't let it stand, and don't let Alvin Bragg fight this fight alone. Get your attorney general, if you're from one of those states, in on it. They have the ability. Dana Nessel has demonstrated that after she reopened her case into the Michigan fake electors. Fani Willis and the attorney general in that state have demonstrated that Georgia is able to do the same. All of these states can open a state-level investigation, and they should. Give Alvin Bragg some backup. Now, as for the what did Jim Jordan want to gain from this? Look, here's the maybe one of the few benefits to the fact that this is a in the GOP right now. It's always really. It's just a coalition of people that care only about themselves. Jim Jordan doesn't give a damn about Donald Trump. If Donald Trump chokes on a chicken wing tomorrow, and that's it for him, Jim Jordan will not shed a tear unless the cameras are on him. He does not care. He doesn't care. What did he want to get? Did he actually want to save Trump? No. He's auditioning for re-election. He knows he's not going to get anything of substance done. He's just putting on a show for his terrible voters because he's a terrible person. And that's all that is. So he got what he wants. I don't think he's going to fight particularly hard. I think he's going to Mike Pence this. And that would be the advice I'd give him. Put up a weak fight and call it a day. Because he literally can't win. Either he's unsuccessful in court, in which case he loses, or he's successful in court, in which case he and his whole party loses. Because they're losers. Let's see what the Wicked community has to say. Ooh, wireless mic. Having some health problems. I'm sorry to see that. Do hope you are healing well. Looks like that's the case. Mars Falcon. Top federally dependent states: New Mexico, Alaska, Mississippi, Kentucky, West Virginia, Montana, Arizona, Indiana, South Carolina, Louisiana, Alabama, Wyoming. All red. Yeah, man. Their lack of understanding of how any of this works is necessary for them to support, for red states to support the people they support. I mean, it's super important that they not have an understanding of what they're talking about, the voters. But the advantage there is that now they've put people in charge who also don't really follow the plot and keep doing dumbass mistakes like this. So it's only going to go better and better for us as long as we keep Democrats and the Department of Justice and our local system of justice actually motivated. Wicked Foxy Dragon points out that Legal Eagle did indeed do a video on the indictment. Did we not? I might have watched that and not done a segment on it. I thought I did. I'll have another look. When is Jordan ever, asked Wireless Mike, when is Jordan ever going to face consequences for ignoring sex abuse claims at his old school anyway? Those are going to have to be social consequences, and that's going to be up to us to make that happen. But we should. This channel needs to get to a point where it is profitable enough that I can just say, okay, I can pay the rent and not worry about it. But when I get to that point, I would very much like to start organizing gatherings where we, just do a live show that at a location where we invite the Wicked community to come gather and make, for example, people like Jim Jordan feel awful about the awful things they've done. Just doing like a live stream outside of Jim Jordan's office, for example, and just wait there and have signs that say, here are the names of the kids that Jim Jordan begged not to report their sexual abuse. Ask him questions about it. I mean, I don't think it, especially when it starts off, it's going to necessarily destroy the man's career, but I love the way you're thinking, and I'm feeling the same way. I think we should make that something he's got to deal with. At the very least, make it something other media folks, like the local news stations outside his office, want to talk about. We'll get there. We're going to build this channel up, and we got an amazing audience, so I have no doubt that we're just going to keep crushing it, and we'll get to such a point, and then we're going to bully Jim Jordan and others like him. And oh boy, you better know I'm coming after Gates real hard. Speaking of not taking guff from monstrous GOP people, let's talk about Jay Inslee. Governor Jay Inslee in Washington, it just became one of those people. He is now someone who you're going to see in a history book. When people tell the story of what happened in early 21st century America, the struggle that we had to fight out on the political stage thus far, and hopefully staying there, God willing. Jay Inslee will be now mentioned as one of those people who resisted evil. Rachel Maddow discussed this on her program, and it is my great pleasure to show it to you, which I will do right now.
In Idaho, also consider that Republicans just passed a law late last week that threatens you with 2 to 5 years in prison if you help someone under the age of 18 leave the state to get an abortion. You have to leave the state of Idaho if you want to get an abortion because they have criminalized abortion there. But helping someone do so now is a new crime. They're calling it abortion trafficking, and it's 2 to 5 years in prison if you do it. You would think in the United States of America that a state couldn't pass a law banning you as an American from traveling to another state. But that's the Idaho Republican idea of freedom now.
She blows right past us. Let me just be real clear about why that's insane. That is giving the states an ability to make a federal law for their citizens. That gives them the ability to say, no, you live in Idaho, so anywhere you go, you have to follow Idaho laws. That is what they're saying. That frozen look on Maddow's face is appropriate. But I'm going to rewind it a little anyway. Oh, that's even better. Yeah. That's what they're saying. Can't have it. Can't stand it.
In the United States of America, that a state couldn't pass a law banning you as an American from traveling to another state. But that's the Idaho Republican idea of freedom now. They are also going to try to use the law to bring criminal charges against doctors who provide an abortion in another state if that abortion is provided to a young woman who has traveled there from Idaho. Now, one of the states that has a long border with Idaho is Washington State, where abortion is legal. That state's Democratic governor, Jay Inslee, wrote a letter just a few days ago to Idaho's Republican governor, Brad Little. It's Jay Inslee, the Democratic governor from Washington, on the left side of your screen there. It's Brad Little, the Republican governor of Idaho, on the right side of your screen. Jay Inslee's letter to Brad Little, basically, for most of the letter, tells him just what a bad idea it is for Idaho to pass this new law. But then Governor Inslee says to him at the end of the letter this. He says, quote, "We welcome Idaho's patients and healthcare providers with open arms here in Washington. But make no mistake, Governor Little, the laws of another state that seek to punish anyone in Washington for lawful actions taken in Washington will not stand. Quote, we will protect our providers and we will harbor and comfort your residents who seek healthcare services that are denied to them in Idaho. We will harbor and comfort your people who need to flee your state in order to get care here. And you will not be arresting our doctors and nurses and pharmacists, my friend." Radical turn, indeed.
Definitely a radical turn. Proud of Jay Inslee. Real proud of him. When did he become governor? 2013? I wasn't expecting anything major from him. That's huge. What can we do about this? Well, link in the description. You can thank Jay Inslee. I'm sure he's getting all kinds of hate mail from the GOP. Let's balance that out, shall we? Didn't put it in the description, but you can contact your governor. Let them know you want them to do the same. Also a link in the description. If you find yourself in need of an abortion currently, well, gosh, there's aidaccess.org. They'll mail you the medication. I'm not sure it's changed so much from month to month. I'm not sure if they're still mailing to every state, but try. Don't follow unjust laws. It's your body. Do what you want with it. Links in the description. And if they come after you, you can say your old pal Jake told you to do it. So, what does it mean when one state tries to make a federal law for its citizens, tries to act essentially like its own little country? Means we go back to the bad old days. We can't have that. And we have to change this. And in the long run, what we need is a blue 2024. You all know I've been saying it again and again. I'm going to keep saying it. We need that. That is how this fight can end. Yes, Trump needs to be in prison. I have no doubt that he's going to get the baby Advil version of what should have been morphine. I have no doubt he's going to get a little baby punishment. But he will be recognized as a criminal. I have no doubt that will happen. He's going to be convicted. And then we'll have to go out and protest his weak sentence, as we're celebrating the fact that he was sentenced at all. But that isn't really the end of this. The Republicans went mask off in 2016. And they ripped off that mask, tore it up, and threw it away. Not going back on. They need to lose all political power, all of it. Great way to do that is to demonstrate for the country that enough is enough in 2024. Long term, that's what we do. In the meantime, thank Governor Inslee. Encourage your own governor to offer the same resistance. And if you need an abortion, use the link in the description and get it. Because while this is not a free country any longer, it can be again if we insist upon it. And if we fight. See what the wicked community has to say. Okay. Patrick Thibodeau says conservatism consists of exactly one proposition, to wit, there must be in-groups whom the law protects but does not bind, alongside out-groups whom the law binds but does not protect. And Mars Falcon says my feelings on that exactly. Nailed it, Patrick. The data bears your premise out, sadly. Egalitarianism for the win. Yep. Wireless Mike says, if anything, it should end any credibility he still has. Yes. And he also gives props to Patrick Thibodeau. Truth, yes, brother. Mars Falcon, I took a guff once, got grounded for 2 weeks by my stepdad. I won't take it again. It's fair. Fair enough. Oh, Mars Falcon, I learned to get past the fact that people are never going to be perfectly in line with my ideals and will make mistakes. I was able to see more folks as potential allies if they're in good faith. Yeah. That is ultimately how most of these dragons are going to be slayed, I believe. Most of these problems are going to be us teaming up with people that we're not used to teaming up with for the next chunk of history. It's going to be, bizarrely, I fully expect to see the leftist of the lefties standing right next to MAGA folks, yanking big money out of politics, then the left standing with Democrats in the traditional alliance, fighting for the rights of the individual, not to be just murdered for being who they are. You might even see the left and Democrats teaming up, like in January 6th, the committee, with traditional Republicans to restore law and order. We're going to pick those people whose interests align with us on individual matters and work with them, and ultimately we will win. If this whole nation is wiped out with a tidal wave and starts again from scratch, the left will still win. Why? Because we're right. The correct ideas will succeed. Hopefully, though, we win in such a way that the most amount of people we can make so are happy. But we will ultimately, our ideas will ultimately win. The anti-corporatist says, I wish, Jake, but I really don't see MAGA doing anything but shooting up the country and setting it on fire. I don't disagree that they will do that. And I don't disagree that they will continue to be hateful, just generally terrible sons of bees. But let me take the person I hate probably most on the planet, just on like a personal level. Matt Gaetz. I truly, if it takes the rest of my career, will get that SOB put in a prison cell. And I'm going to keep trying to do that, while acknowledging at the same time that one of his stated goals is to end massive donations in politics, get big money out of politics. So I'll work with him. I'll play clips of his talking about that to encourage MAGA people to join us in the fight. At the very least, that's a reliable vote, especially if we point the spotlight on him. Especially if we can get that vote close to re-election time. Yeah. That's a reliable vote from a right-winger. So while I agree a bit with the black pilling there, like, is there anything redeemable in their souls? I don't think so. But the politicians, I don't think so. But can we still use them? Certain times, yes. Wicked Foxy Drag says, Grr, I just picked up a container full of marbles, and my son unlatched it last night, and Now I have 200 marbles all over my wooden floor. I'm counting to 10 so I don't lose my temper. Okay, I'm counting to 20. Wireless Mike says the downside to most. That's the downside to most. Oh, Rustbox. Let's get it in where it deserves. Rustbox says Gates and then does the sick emoji. Yeah, I know. That's the downside, says Wireless Mike, to most of MSNBC stuff. They keep it behind a paywall. Meanwhile, Fox is spreading for free everywhere all the time. Yeah, it's a terrible model that MSNBC is using, and like all traditional papers of note, terrible. You should give away, if you have useful information, you should give it away for free and just rely on advertisement. The anti-corporatist says, yeah, some of us may need to go and be fake Republicans to lure them out of the idiocy. To be frank, the corpy Dems are nearly as bad, possibly worse for us, given their right-wing policies. Yeah, and the thing is, I actually don't think you have to lie to them to lure them. I think you can lure them by pissing them off a little bit. I think you can take advantage in back in wrestling days. One thing we do is offer a weak grab to try to get people, try to snatch your arm, and then pull you down. But what you're really trying to do, and most of the time folks know this, is you're trying to get them to extend their own arm, to reach up to try to grab you, because that's what you were after the whole time. That's what we do, I think, with MAGA folks. Give a little weak grab. Give them a little bit of guff. Give them a little of what they're expecting, and then change it up on. Wicked Foxy Dragon says, LOL, I don't have, talking about the anti-corporatist says, use a vacuum, Foxy. She says she does not have one that picks up marbles. Ha! I got this, though. He is picking them up. If and when one of my illegitimates turns up, I will ask you for advice on raising. Mars Falcon says that's effective problem solving. Wicked Foxy Dragon, nice. The Marble Saga. I love it. All right, let's have a gander here. Oh, yes. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about tanks and the situation over in Ukraine. I think we're going to pop in from time to time, update folks on the war, and also tell you how you can help right here from home. And believe it or not, American citizens are going to be one of the major factors, if not the deciding factor, in the lives of Ukrainians. Literally, there's a generation of people where the rest of their lives, whether they live free in a country that is theirs, or they spend the rest of their days occupied by Vladimir Putin and his legacy, that might just be decided by the American public. So we should probably know how that war is going. One of the big issues right now is the arms that are available. Ukraine just got some of the best, most destructive, most abhorrent inventions mankind has ever made, to be turned to their benefit. And I despise the fact that America had these things lying around. But since we had them, may as well use them to fight some bad guys. And now Russia is responding by shipping in new tanks. But new is a very generous word. Let's talk about it. And of course, we're going to have to redo that intro. So right now, there's a war going on in Ukraine. And the American people are going to be a major factor, if not the major factor, in deciding how it goes. Whether or not the American government continues to send arms to Ukrainians to fight off the invaders, which are Russia, which is Russia. That's everything. One of the things that America just gave to Ukraine, Abrams tanks. some of the most destructive machines humanity's ever made. What's Russia responding with? New tanks, in the sense that they weren't in Ukraine before. But I think you'll find in this next segment that new is a very, very generous term.
Are 1950s-era Russian tanks headed toward Ukraine?
I didn't believe it until I saw it. T-55s traveling on Russian rail.
These tanks were developed in the mid-1950s.
This was the iconic tank of the Cold War, especially if you wanted to stop a rebellion or crush democracy-seeking dissidents.
You used a T-54, T-55 variant. The tank even had its own movie.
The Beast of War, starring Stephen Baldwin.
But as the Iraqis found out in 1991,
T-55s were great at crushing rebellions, but not so good at fighting NATO tanks.
so why is Russia bringing these out of depot?
I don't think it's to fight on the front line. They have an old 100mm gun and no reactive armor.
They wouldn't last long in a stand-up fight, but check this round out.
This is a high-explosive round for the 100mm D10 gun. A modern version of this round is used by Iran.
I think Russia's going to use the T-55s as mobile artillery.
I've said before that Russian artillery is at the end of its life.
The artillery has to be pulled off the line and sent to depot to get the barrels replaced, so I think these vehicles are going to cover while that happens. Our 1950s...
Okay. So one thing that makes that very important. The majority, and this is just an old chunk of coal's understanding, but the majority of the fighting happening on the ground in Ukraine right now involves a duel between artillery. Normally, the way artillery works is that one side has a better range or has better range than the other. That side has the artillery advantage. Both sides currently have the ability to see when and where the other side fires their artillery from. So they have the same range. So because this is a situation where Ukraine's using super old artillery, Russia's using super old artillery, they both have about the same range, and they can both see when each other fires, which means you get one artillery shot, and then your position, if you don't kill the other artillery, is going to get hit with artillery. So when he says that these Russian T-55s are going to be, even though they're old tanks, they're going to be used as mobile artillery. It is to say that's not nothing. That solves a major problem, in fact, for Russia. Even if the tanks themselves don't have the ability to reach the Ukrainian artillery, it does give them an option for attacking Ukrainians in a way that doesn't immediately expose their artillery, thus making it destroyed shortly thereafter. But why do I bring this up? Why am I showing this clip? If you'll recall, the Bradley, which we sent over, recently we sent over, because the American people were strongly behind the Ukrainians, because we showed that we give a damn. Unlike in 2014, where just nothing happened. This time we gave a damn. Because of that, Bradleys got shipped over. The Bradley killed more tanks in the Middle East, in our recent journeys there, than other tanks did. So the Bradley, little baby fighting vehicle, is now going to be there to counter these ancient Soviet tanks. That is the ripple effect that our actions here have there. And no matter what borders you were born within, We are in a different era than is like anything experienced by any generation before. Now, you can see what's happening over there. And all of us, all around the world, we have some degree of responsibility for each other, at least just basic human decency. So, stay strong. Keep encouraging your representatives to speak out on behalf of the people of Ukraine and to give them whatever they request to end this thing quickly. Because they've made it clear, it ends when Russia leaves their country. That's a reasonable demand. There have been almost no wars that I have agreed with the, what do they call it, casus belli, the cause for war in. One of the few, I mean, throughout history. I'm a Highlander. But for the list that is wars where I agree with one side joining into war, Ukraine's one of them. So if you want to help, links in the description, or contacting your representatives and telling them to keep supporting Ukraine, as well as for donating to Ukrainian aid organizations if you have the means. Give it some thought. See what the wicked community has to say. Mars Falcon. I know one of the Floyd crew has terrible politics. No. Remember hearing about it several years ago. Roger Waters, maybe? Cannot recall. I'm going to, for one of the few times in my whole life, I'm going to choose ignorance. I don't want to know. Oh, God. I'm choosing anti-corporatist. I'm choosing not to read your comment. But dang it looks like you know the answer. Wicked Foxy Dragon says, now I am sure I will get up for a drink in the middle of the night and step on a marble he missed. I'm calling this the Marble Cinematic Universe. So, I would just say on Ukraine, I know it seems like it's a million miles away. I know it seems like there's other problems to deal with. And yeah, there are. And in fact, if we just stay selfish, we being the folks in America, if we just stay selfish and just deal with our own problems, we'll actually be helping Ukraine. Don't forget dead kids, dead mothers, dead grandfathers. There's people, civilians, being massacred. And there are soldiers who are soldiers only because their lives got interrupted by a shell. That's real. These aren't characters. These are real human beings. I don't know about you, but I still carry some guilt for what we did to Iraq, which on its face was no different than what Putin is doing to Ukraine. Our leader wanted something from a country, and they took it, and they offered us a weak lie, and we didn't hold them accountable. Just like the Russian people right now are choosing not to hold Vladimir Putin accountable. I'm not even going to pretend like they wouldn't pay a heavy price, but they've chosen not to pay that price. And they chose all the ignorance that led up to Putin taking power, being in power. I see that, and I see us from 20 years ago. And I'm just waiting for somebody who isn't forced to choose to start acting decently. Be an ally. And collectively, let's choose to make this planet I'm going to start. That's what I think we need to start thinking like sci-fi writers, like Gene Roddenberry and Jules Verne. We got to start thinking like that. You know what? I wasn't even gonna do this segment. You guys are now getting a bonus segment. I'm just gonna show you something. Got nothing to do with politics. I don't even know if I'm able to download this. Yeah, I am. All right. Folks in the Wicked Senate, this is what you get for watching the live show. Stream of consciousness. And occasionally, wild talk about sci-fi. Let's hope I'm not giving myself a computer virus right now while I download this. Yeah, there we go. This is a video about something called acoustic levitation. Now, you know what? We're going to do literally a whole segment. Let me set it up though. Give me a moment. Normally I do this before we're live. Or if I'm feeling if I'm going to wolf around a little bit, I'll record the segment so I can mess with you guys. Although I've never successfully pulled it off. You know, like do something that would be impossible. All right, you're gonna start to see this, and then I'm gonna go back, and then we'll
So if you take an ultrasonic transducer like...
I didn't believe it until I saw it. T-55.
Right, hold up. Almost there. Almost there. Lordy Lou, this is issue being this is a short. But I want you to be able to see it clearly, so make it right. Okay. Let me do an intro. We're going to make this a segment. We got to start talking about the things that we're not pursuing. Probably my biggest beef with this era in history that we live in is we're right on the cusp of a bunch of amazing things. But what are we spending our time doing? Why do we have Starbucks workers pulling 45, 50-hour weeks? Why do we have people working in coal mines? Why is anybody digging ditches? We're doing a hell of a lot of busy work, and we're arguing about Mr. Potato Head and all this Republican nonsense. For what? What is the benefit of it? The benefit is just so that billionaires can have more billions, tens of billions instead of just one little baby billion. That's ultimately what it comes down to. But what are we missing out on? Imagine this for a moment. Imagine you call up your old pal Jake. And over on my desk, like in a sci-fi movie, a bunch of little plastic spheres in a cylinder collectively move. They're different color, all kinds of colors. They collectively swirl around in this cylinder, and then they form, just like pixels, dots of light on a screen, they form your face. And over on your desk, bunch of little pixels float up in a cylinder, and they form my face, and they are reproducing the image that a camera on my device is picking up, and we're talking to each other in 3D. Does that seem like sci-fi stuff? It sure does, because it is. Nobody's made that yet. Because whoever would have invented that piece of technology is running from their lives from a nightclub that just got shot up. Because we argue about whether or not we should have any restrictions at all on firearms instead of seeing that it's a problem. The person who would have invented that is trying not to get beaten to death by a bunch of bigots running around. We're creating problems. The problem is we're not thinking about what we're not doing with all this energy. Let me show you what we could be doing.
So if you take an ultrasonic transducer like this and you put a surface above it for it to reflect the sound wave off, you can actually create a standing wave pattern in there. And if you take some small pieces of things like pieces of paper or small pieces of styrofoam, you can stick them in there and they actually levitate in the standing wave.
Right now, there is an object which is levitating. Look at it.
Also, instead of a reflector, we could just put a second transducer up top of it.
Well, could you get multiple little pieces of foam to levitate, I wonder?
Playing the same wave. And if we do that, we get a little bit stronger levitation. Okay, let's see how many we can fit in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look how cool that is.
Now imagine if instead of constantly worrying about his job because he needs it to live, some engineer saw that and decided, I'm going to make something that can reliably arrange these colors. Imagine if instead of worrying about her job, because that's where her health insurance comes from and that's where her kids' health insurance comes from, some programmer teamed up with that engineer and made a software program that would direct the sound waves as necessary to not only cancel themselves out so that it is silent to our ears, but to arrange little flecks like that in predetermined patterns. This is the kind of stuff that we miss out on when we're creating our own problems. When people are worried that, oh no, here comes AI. It's going to take up all the jobs. Oh no, here comes a robot. It's going to make all the jobs. We're missing the point. We should rejoice when some of our busy work gets done. It should be a new era of enlightenment that we're jumping into. We should be a civilization full of inventors and tinkerers and, content producers and comedians and singers and composers and whatever the hell we want. Because at the end of the day, we have energy flowing freely to our homes for free. We have food guaranteed to us. We have some reasonable amount of disposable income, which is just there if we need it. We have a house over our heads. We are warm. We are safe. These are things that if we just decided that we insisted upon having, we could. We would simply have to make the decision that billionaires cannot have multiple billions anymore. They can only have $1 billion. That is the only decision we need to make. And we have to get others to make that decision with us, knowing that billionaires, heartless bastards that they are, will fight against a future where people are turning that into something usable and cool. And they will spend billions to do so. That was a weird one. Let's see what the wicked community has to say about that sudden turn. Rustbox says, great engineers are busy making great bombs instead of great prosthetics. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, in fact, prosthetics are... I honestly thought that we might be done with seeing somebody walking around with like the traditional hook. Well, as I say it, that's actually a very useful device. But I thought everybody would have cool robot hands by now that lost a hand. Sucks to me that we're not at that place. Wicked Foxy Dragon says they never levitated, though. I mean, they were lifted by sound waves. Come on. But, all right, if you want genuine levitation, take a piece of ceramic, super cool it, and put a magnet over it. That will levitate. The point being, we have access to amazing beginnings of technology, and even perhaps more exciting, what we're doing right now. We have the ability to communicate for damn near free to the whole world. The whole world. In fact, if we can agree that we currently have people doing jobs that we don't really need them doing, we can start doing pretty kick-ass things. And here's the most big government lefty that you'll hear me get, because I truly, passionately believe this. Remember the New Deal? How we did all these government projects just to give people jobs. We actually ended up making some of the things that America relies on to this day. We need that again, just as AOC said, just as Bernie said, we need a Green New Deal. And think of the things we could do. Take those coal miners who aren't mining coal so much. Give them jobs if they want jobs still. They're happy to take a retirement where you get a pension for the rest of your life just because you were a coal miner. Cool. But if they want a job, all right, install internet in rural areas. Shouldn't be a speck of this country where you can't get a decent signal. There's a lot. There's a lot we can do. And I think it's important that we keep our eyes not just on survival, but on what we want to build. And knock these motherfuckers out at the ballot box. Because the problem's Republicans. Problem's also corporate Democrats. But I'm confident now with the political education Americans have had to get just to stay alive. I'm confident now that we can grab them by the scruff of their necks and force them into doing what we want, which is exactly what we'll do. First, let's give them a big old victory in 2024. Well, y'all, I had a blast hanging out with you tonight. I'll tell you what. We're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you very much for joining me. And remember, if you've got somebody that you think needs their Overton window opened or pushed a little bit left, let's say, invite them to Friday Peace Talks. I think this has the potential to be something that is very healthy for the internet. And I would like to see it flourish. So invite folks to Friday Peace Talks. Like the stream if you haven't already. That helps me out a great deal. And certainly, if you're new here, consider subscribing. If you're not new, maybe you already know I got that subscription. A little braggadocious. I don't know why I did that. Thank you for joining me. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake.